Senior media correspondent Brian Stelter, political commentator Jason Miller, a former Trump senior communications advisor, and political commentator Amanda Carpenter, former communications director for Senator Ted Cruz. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
Brian, the president told his Twitter followers to watch Fox News, bashing the Mueller investigation, calling it the Mueller crime family. Is there any doubt in your mind that this is coordinated by the White House to discredit the special counsel?
Yes, it is coordinated. And we know that because Hannity and Trump speak frequently. The president also speaks with other conservative media commentators frequently. He meets with them, talks with them, dines with them at the White House in Mar-a-Lago. It is absolutely a coordinated effort, all part of an alternative universe of information. The president props up an alternative reality where he's winning, his enemies are losing, where Mueller's corrupt, and where this investigation needs to be disbanded. That's the alternative universe that parts of Fox, the National Enquirer, which has been in the news, Sinclair commentators, these right-wing media outlets prop up this alternative universe. And look, that's fine in some ways. I love reading fiction novels. People love watching TV dramas and comedies. But what they are promoting is a version of fiction. And it does a disservice to their viewers to claim that it is fact, to claim that it's reality.
Doesn't it do a disservice to the American people? Because they're not getting the full story. You can criticize, CNN all you want or other news organizations, but at least they're telling the stories of what the president is actually doing. There's not positive coverage of any president, all positive coverage of any president.
If Trump ends up in tremendous legal jeopardy, Hannity's viewers are going to wake up one morning and say, wait, what? I didn't see this coming. Yeah. That's the problem. That's why it's a disservice.
Jason, is it appropriate for the president of the United States to promote a single cable news show bashing a special counsel investigation into his campaign?
The president can promote whatever he wants. I mean, that's a First Amendment right, and he can definitely go out and push his own viewpoint.
Is it appropriate?
But Don, I think he can do it if he wants. I mean, we're obviously in a new era here where I think the political paradigm's completely changed. But Don,
Jason,
let's be intellectually honest here.
Not to cut you off. No. I just want to not to cut you off. I asked you if it was appropriate, and you said he can do whatever he wants. I can punch Brian Stelter in the face right now because I can do whatever I want. The question is it appropriate for me to do it at all or to do it on television? That is a different. You're answering a different question. My question was, is it appropriate for the president to do it? Not that does he have the right to do it? So please answer my question.
As long as he's not infringing on somebody else's rights, I mean, that's the First Amendment. And again, let's not compare you punching Brian, which, by the way, Brian's a tough guy. I mean, I wouldn't mess with him, so watch out. He might sock you right back. But let's be intellectually honest here. I mean, if you flipped it over to MSNBC, you're going to tell me that their programming isn't essentially coordinating and colluding with the Democratic Party. And so, look, you're going to get a more pro-Trump viewpoint from Fox News. Okay. You're going to get a more
Jason, you didn't answer my question.
You didn't answer my question. I absolutely did.
No, you didn't answer my question.
Let's be
I'm going to move on to Amanda.
Here,
Unless you're going to answer my question, I'm going to move on to Amanda. So, Amanda, these are outrageous. Comments are outrageous. Mueller is a war hero. How can Newt Gingrich compare him to Stalin?
I don't know. I thought Newt Gingrich should be a student of history, but these seemed like pretty reckless comparisons. I mean, here's my question. Okay, the Trump people, they don't like Sessions. They don't like Mueller. They don't like Rosenstein. So who do they like? They apparently like lawyers like Joe DeGeneva, who also makes reckless statements, and I believe compared the Mueller probe to a form of regicide, which is by definition the killing of a king. So you can see where their head is at. And so they're on this campaign to discredit pretty much anyone who doesn't consider Donald Trump a king, because I don't know where else this goes. And now you have this campaign even against Comey. Add that to the X list of legal people that they don't like. And so Republicans are in a weird position. Trump is making them pick sides, which he often does, and people are being forced to choose. Do you choose to believe people like Robert Mueller and James Comey or Donald Trump and spokeswomen at the RNC? I think that's a pretty easy choice.
Conservative media criticizing the Mueller investigation. We'll continue right after this break. Back now with Brian Stelter, Jason Miller, and Amanda Carpenter, and there's been no punching on the set here.
I have not been punched yet.
That was just an example. So listen, Brian, every night Hannity and his Fox News colleagues slam the special counsel's investigation. Is it all about appeasing their main viewer in the White House?
Audience of one.
And also, I mean, Sean will tell you that he's a host of a show. He's not a journalist. And,
right.
And I think it's past 7 o'clock or past 8 o'clock. It's opinion. It's opinion programming. But Fox News viewers may not know the difference.
The drip, drip, drip of it every night, the accumulation of the daily talking points against Mueller, against the FBI, against the idea of law and order, it does do damage to our democracy. And I think many conservative commentators would agree with that statement if the shoe were on the other foot. And if a President Obama or a President Clinton were doing this every night, doing this with the help of commentators on television every night, trying to tear down an investigation into Russian meddling. It is extraordinary. The daily attacks and how they add up over time. I think, Don, any professor of rhetoric would tell you that that's a strategy, to say the same thing over and over again so many times in order to cause people not to trust an investigation. That's a strategy. And I go back to the idea of an alternative universe of information, because when things get bad, when things get worse, Trump's going to turn to that alternative universe for defense. And people may choose to believe that instead of what's really going on.
Jason, there is a feedback loop here. The president seems to know what's coming. Fox News says what the president wants to hear. The president tweets what he sees on the network. He even bases policy decisions on it. Do you think that's dangerous?
I don't think it's dangerous. I think clearly the president is rallying around someone who shares his viewpoint. Obviously, there are other channels, as I mentioned in the previous segment, where someone can go to if they completely disagree with that or want to go a different direction. But I think the sentiment that you're seeing here, Don, is the fact that Trump supporters view that this investigation is going way outside the initial scope of where it was supposed to be. We're almost 2 years into this thing, and there's been zero evidence of any sort of collusion between the Trump campaign and a foreign entity, and that's what this is supposed to be about. So I think it's only natural that you'd see, whether it be the president, whether you see a network whose viewpoints very much are in line with him, punching back here.
But there's been zero evidence.
Say collusion. The launching document last May doesn't even use the word collusion.
It's interference in the Russian election. Yeah,
it's about the attack from Russia.
Wait. No, this whole thing is that the campaign supposedly coordinated with a foreign entity, that there's some kind of foreign influence that went and swung this election. And so far, there's been nothing to that.
And we've seen a lot of evidence.
They didn't say anything about the influence swinging the election.
But you are submitting to the alternative universe of information.
But Jason, there's been no evidence. Brian, there's been no evidence because no one knows what the evidence is. You can't say there's been no evidence. I can't say that there is evidence. No one knows what Robert Mueller has. So for people to say that there's no evidence, that's disingenuous.
Don, you're innocent until proven guilty. You're not guilty until proven innocent.
That's absolutely true.
Can we just take a quick trip back to Realville about what we know? I mean, if we get the investigation, the crime was that the Russians meddled in the election. That's what the investigation is about.
Thank you very much.
And then there's lie after lie that Trump and his allies and people associated with the campaign have told about their contacts with Russian officials. And so the Mueller probe is getting to the bottom of that, and we'll see what happens. And, you know, every time you look at another Trump connection, a Russian falls out. And that's not Mueller's fault. Perhaps it's Donald Trump's fault because they haven't been honest from the beginning.
Like
but we'll see where that
Amanda,
goes.
Hold on. Don't you think that, but Jason, hold on. Don't you think you're proving the point when you say the Trump supporters believe that this investigation is going on, for longer than it should, or that is a witch hunt? That's what they're being fed.
The talking points are working.
The talking points from Fox and the White House. That's why they believe that, not because it's true. It's just because they say it.
Totally disagree. I mean, and that couldn't be further off from my viewpoint. My viewpoint is that Trump supporters believe that from the beginning there's been no coordination or no collusion between the Trump campaign and any foreign entity.
Why do they believe it? Why do they believe it? They haven't heard anything out of Comey's mouth. They heard from the intelligence agencies that there was interference in the election, but the entire time Trump has been saying there is no collusion. Fox News, conservative media has been saying there is no collusion. They haven't been saying we need to investigate and get to the bottom of what happened with the 2016 election and interference. It should take as long as possible as it needs to take.
Before there was even a special
and let me finish my point.
They were saying that well before.
So then why is conservative media and Trump supporters so adamant about getting this investigation to end, that it's gone on so long. Do you know how long the Benghazi investigation went on?
Our economy,
2.5 years and 7 different hearings. I did not hear one conservative saying it's time to bring this to an end. It's going on too long.
And I'll tell you why, because President Trump is doing so many great things right now. The economy is roaring, doing great things on the international stage.
What does
all
that
the
have
detractors
to
want to
do
do
with the
is
price of tea?
Because
Don,
It's
can we just put
because,
in the
well,
distance,
because
and we
you don't
see
want
all
to
the
talk
three
about what the
quick
president's
smoke
actually
gets worse
doing.
every
You
day.
want to
Okay,
try to
stand
go
by.
into collusionville.
Amanda, go ahead.
There's been 3 big lies that I think are going to come back to haunt Trump and already are. One is the lie about the Trump Tower meeting, the purpose and what was discussed.
Yeah.
Number 2, the lies that Mike Flynn told about his contacts with Russians after the election. Yeah, maybe that was an abusive Logan Act violation, that went too far, but he lied about it and we don't know why. And then there's also the time that Donald Trump hosted Russians in the Oval Office and didn't tell anybody, in which he's allegedly said that he fired Comey to relieve pressure. Those are
go.
3 big lies that we don't have
hold on.
a
So
clue
now
about.
he was,
Jason,
now
I gotta
he was
go. I
colluding
gotta go,
after the
Jason.
election?
I can't.
So he was
and every night,
colluding after
Jason,
the
I
election?
can't. Please, be respectful. When you come on and give this information and other Trump supporters and give disinformation, I spend most of my time trying to debunk falsities and lies instead of educating the American people. It's frustrating.
Don, what did I say that was a lie?
Every single night, you talk about no collusion. You don't even know the original focus of the Russia investigation. You're feeding talking points that aren't true to the American people.
Don, what did I say that was
wanna give
incorrect?
if you're gonna be on this platform, respect the American people. It is a privilege to come here. Don't come on CNN and lie or deflect about what's going on. Come here and be honest with the American people. It is a privilege to come on here. It is not a right.